Rob Reiner has never shied away from honesty, but when the legendary filmmaker spoke about his son Nick's struggle with drug addiction, his words carried a different kind of weight, raw, unresolved, and painfully human. This wasn't a victory lap story about recovery neatly wrapped in hope. It was a father admitting that when addiction enters a family, there is no clear finish line. As Reiner put it plainly, there's no end. For decades, Rob Reiner has been known as a storyteller who understands emotional complexity, whether behind the camera on classics like When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, and A Few Good Men, or off-screen as a politically outspoken public figure. But when he spoke about Nick, the tone shifted. This wasn't a director crafting a narrative. This was a father still living inside one. Reiner described addiction not as a chapter that closes, but as a lifelong presence that reshapes every relationship it touches. Even when a person is doing better, even when there are stretches of calm or stability, the fear never fully disappears. For parents especially, the anxiety becomes permanent, an undercurrent that hums beneath every moment of relief. Reiner admitted that the waiting, the wondering, and the constant readiness for the next crisis can be emotionally exhausting in ways that are hard to articulate unless you've lived it. What struck many listeners most was Reiner's willingness to talk about regret. Not regret in a self-punishing sense, but the quiet, gnawing second-guessing that parents of children with addiction often experience. He questioned decisions he made when Nick was younger. He wondered whether he acted too late at times, or too harshly at others. He acknowledged that even with resources, love, and access to help, there are moments where parents feel powerless. There's no manual for this, Reiner suggested, emphasizing that addiction doesn't respond predictably to parenting styles, financial support, or even relentless care. One of the most painful truths he shared was the realization that love alone cannot cure addiction. That lesson, he implied, can be devastating for a parent whose instinct is to fix, protect, and rescue. Reiner also spoke about the emotional toll addiction takes on the entire family ecosystem. It isn't just the person struggling, it's the spouses, siblings, and parents who live in a constant state of alert. Celebrations become tentative, good news is cautiously received. Silence can be as frightening as chaos. Reiner noted that even moments of progress are often shadowed by the question, how long will this last? Despite his success and public stature, Reiner made it clear that addiction is a great equalizer. Fame does not insulate families from pain. Wealth does not guarantee answers. If anything, he suggested, privilege can sometimes add layers of guilt, because when you have access to help and still struggle, the sense of failure can feel magnified. Yet, amid the heaviness, Reiner did not speak without compassion, especially toward his son. He made a point of separating Nick from the disease, underscoring that addiction is not a moral failure or a lack of character. It is an illness that distorts behavior, judgment, and relationships. That distinction, Reiner implied, took time for him to fully internalize, and learning it changed how he approached his role as a father. The phrase, "there's no end," wasn't delivered with despair alone. It was also a statement of realism. Reiner explained that acceptance doesn't mean giving up hope, it means understanding that vigilance, boundaries, and support are ongoing commitments. Recovery is not a destination, it's a process that must be renewed daily. He also touched on the loneliness parents often feel when dealing with addiction in their families. Even surrounded by people, the experience can feel isolating, partly because society still struggles to talk openly about substance abuse without shame or blame. By speaking publicly, Reiner acknowledged that he hoped to normalize these conversations and remind other parents that their fear, anger, guilt, and exhaustion are not signs of failure, they are human responses to an inhumanly difficult situation. In reflecting on his regrets, Reiner didn't frame himself as a victim or a hero. Instead, he positioned himself as a father still learning, still adjusting, still hoping. He admitted that he wishes he had understood sooner that control is an illusion when it comes to addiction. What parents can offer, he said, is presence, consistent, loving, and firm, even when it hurts. Ultimately, Reiner's openness resonated because it rejected easy conclusions. There was no tidy moral, no dramatic turning point, no guarantee of peace. Just honesty. Addiction, he made clear, doesn't respect timelines or closure. It lingers, it demands attention, and it reshapes love into something more complicated, but no less powerful. For Rob Reiner, speaking about Nick wasn't about catharsis or publicity. It was about telling the truth many families live every day but rarely hear reflected back to them. And in admitting that, there's no end, he offered something quietly radical, permission to stop pretending that healing always looks complete, and to keep loving anyway.